Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending this session 1A on construction and design and technology. I'm the chair of this session. My name is Chika, and also we have somebody who's assisting, who's moderating. Emmanuel is here. There will be three interesting presentations in this session. The first one is on Back to the 70s, a demand pool retrospective on innovation in construction by Chris and Fred. The second presentation is on bricklaying robots in the South African construction industry, the Contractors' Perspective by Nishani. And then the final one for the day will be Attitude Towards Using Woods in the Danish Building Sectors by Hans. There are going to be three interesting presentations. So the intention is that at the end of each video, we have 10 minutes question time. Please feel free to post your questions on the chat. We're going to collate it and then pose our questions to the presenters after each presentation. So let's make it start.
If I can add just a quick one. The papers are also on the sides if they want to have a look.
Okay. So the first one starts now.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to this presentation on innovation in construction. My name is Chris Ivory and my co-author on the right there is Fred Sherratt, and we're both from Anglia University. So the idea of this paper and presentation is to discuss the idea of demand pull as a theory of innovation and apply that to construction research, and to see if we can make the argument as to whether this might be a common ground that we could all stand on as researchers. I doubt it, of course, but that's the idea of this paper.
So what is the problem that we're talking about here? What is the problem of innovation in construction? Well, the key issue here, or one of the key issues, is that there is no agreement between researchers in innovation in construction. So we have the idea, for example, of institutional drag, the idea that organizations that have become set in their ways and regulation, etc., tends to get in the way of innovation. And so therefore creating a drag. We have the idea that the construction industry has a very low culture of innovation, where there's a lack of interest in innovation, there's no habit of innovating. The idea also that it's a project-based industry and therefore learning is lost at the end of projects, and that production processes, design and production processes rather within projects also tend to get in the way of innovation. We get politics building up across the life of the project, for example, blocking and getting in the way of innovation. And I've written about this myself. We have the idea that the industry is fragmented, that it's not able to bring itself together into a sort of vertically integrated, cohesive form to collaborate and therefore start to innovate. We have the idea that firm size is critical, and it is critical in construction. I mean, 95% of SMEs are 95% of the firms in construction rather are SMEs. And small firms are not so good at expensive innovation. They don't have the margins to take the risks of investing in innovation. They don't have the staff, etc., or the skills. And we have this perennial old problem of workforce skills as well, or low workforce skills rather. The idea that obviously if your staff don't have the skills to adapt to new technology, then you yourself as an organization can't adapt to new technology. But why is this in itself necessarily a problem? Elsewhere, for example, I've written myself that this is potentially a healthy state of play. We have a lot of debate around how innovation occurs in construction. Well, that's fine and great, but it's also politically a problem for us, as Larry Koskela and Jeffrey Pfeiffer have written. Those disciplines like medicine, engineering, they tend to have a single paradigm of thinking, a single platform from which to do their research. And that makes them more visible, more recognizable, both to policymakers, to funders, and within their own universities. That means that they are more likely to get their research funded, they're more likely to be supported within the university and attract students, and their staff are more likely even to get promoted. So there's good, strong political reasons for thinking it might at least be quite nice to have some sort of shared platform. So that's the first bit of this. That's the first rationale for this paper. The second rationale for the paper is some concerns that we've had in discussion about really the way thinking about innovation has been going over the last few decades. It's very clear that the Schumpeterian model of innovation is the one which is holding sway here. And what is that model? Well, this model at its heart is about the neoliberal individualist hero entrepreneur who pushes through, innovator entrepreneur who pushes through all those institutional barriers, brings firms together, builds networks, etc., in order to drive through innovation. And it's also the idea that innovation drives economic growth, and therefore if you invest in science and invest in technology, you will produce innovations which will consequently drive growth. And this is to some extent really a problematic idea. It doesn't really stack up against quite a lot of evidence, and I'll come to that in a minute. And that's where we come to the demand-pull thesis, which has really fallen out of favour since the 1970s. So this idea is an economic theory primarily. It comes from Schmuckler. It's the demand-pull thesis. And very simply, it's the idea that you have demand for and a need for change that pulls through innovation. And interestingly, post-war, when there was a great deal of interest in the West in particular in where the next set of innovations were going to come from, and therefore economic growth, was an idea to set out and test the technology push and demand pull thesis. And projects like Hindsight and Traces did that, interviewing or looking into hundreds of innovations. And what they found was 95% of them resulted directly from a perceived need. And there's plenty of other research which backs us up and suggests this as well. We've got a huge body of work by Walsh looking at the history of the German plastics industry, showing quite clearly that that was stimulated by demand created by the war, and also to some extent perceived demand that was going to be created by stated policy of the German government to become self-sufficient in plastics, etc. So with that, what is the evidence in construction that what we might have here is a predominantly demand-led model of innovation? Well, I think the evidence is quite strong. We have skyscrapers, lifts and mechanical ventilation in the 1920s, and this is drawing from David Gann's work. Chicago 1920s, what you had was wealthy clients, increasing because of massive economic growth at the time. Demand for city space led to a logic of tall buildings, but also to some extent, sort of clients had money to spend. Let's build high. That drives innovation in things like lifts and mechanical ventilation, and even ultimately creates the engineering professions as well. So it's from things like mechanical ventilation that engineering the professions and training begins to be drawn. So they're creating the professions as well. So demand, economic growth, ultimately leading to innovation and to professions. And plenty of other examples across history as well. In fact, I think it's fair to say that it has been during periods of rapid economic growth, periods which I have to say have come to an end, but during those periods of growth that we see a lot of innovation in construction to solve the problems, usually, of the need to build rapidly, or in this case specifically, to build high. So we got steel frame school building programs in the UK in the 1950s. We have system-built concrete housing in the 1960s, and we have prefabricated housing, less so in the UK. Certainly post-war UK, there was a lot of prefabricated housing, but it never really took hold. One of the interesting things about demand is it also has a social aspect to it as well. It's not just an economic concept. Talk much more about that in the paper. But the situation in Norway is really interesting, and there's a lovely paper by Finn Ostervik on prefabricated housing in Norway. And Finn's argument here is that this was driven by entrepreneurial spirit, if you like, by the innovator entrepreneur who pushed prefabricated housing past all of the institutional resistance that he found in the Norwegian construction industry and regulatory bodies, etc., etc. But you can also tell another story there, because it's also clear that this entrepreneur was taking advantage of clear economic growth that was going on as well at the same time. And what was happening also was that the Norwegian government was making very cheap money available to its citizens through its two national banks in order to allow them to buy housing. And the only way to meet the demand for that housing was through prefabrication. So again, we also have a demand story here as well. So what you can do with the concept of demand is to take our existing theories of innovation and actually reverse the causal arrows towards them from economic growth to the observable empirical facts like institutional drag, fragmentation, lack of collaborative culture, poor workforce skills, etc., etc. And what you can begin to suggest actually is that it is a lack of growth which leads to institutional drag, which leads to a fragmented industry, which gives rise to a low innovation culture, and which leads to lack of investment in training and in workforce skills generally. So, in other words, and to finish this up, you can suggest that what we have at the minute is a situation in which we have construction industries that have grown used to and have begun to reflect the low growth that our economies have experienced, primarily, of course, I'm talking about the West here right now, have experienced since the 1960s. You know, the rate of growth at least has begun to slow quite dramatically and continues to do so. And many of our economies have in fact been in ongoing crisis since the 1970s. So what we can say about innovation in construction then is that actually we don't have low rates of innovation in construction. What we have is levels of innovation that reflect a certain degree of reality, economic reality. And just a quote from the paper to finish here. In other words, construction has settled again into a comfortable, low-tech equilibrium where practices, profits and productivity, methods, organization and technology are viewed by all parties, including clients and customers, as adequate to their needs. And I will finish there. Thank you. Slightly over.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Thank you Chris. Thank you for that presentation and for that wonderful presentation. Before I invite questions, I'll upgrade you to the presenter mode. Yeah, which I've done. So I open this to the floor so that I invite questions. So if you want to ask questions, let me know, and I can. Any questions from the floor? Any question? So, David, I don't know whether David has a question. David's comment, one of the problems with innovation push is that it produces hype and sales speak. Demand-led innovation would require innovation would have to work. David, I don't know whether this is a comment or you want to. David, do you want to? Let me invite you as a presenter, David.
was going to jump in with a quick question.
Okay, go ahead while we wait for David.
Okay.
Fred.
So, as we stand, Chris, do you think construction management traditional, research approaches, data collection approaches, are being gradually outmoded?
Outmoded by what?
In terms of are they fit for purpose? Are they still fit for purpose, or we need to start embracing other areas and different things done in sociology?
Yeah. Obviously, I think we should be embracing a different view, which I guess is what this presentation is about. I think I was reflecting on this actually a bit more, and I think a lot of the theories that we have of innovation and that we as construction researchers draw on are actually ideas that are born of the assumption of perpetual economic growth. It's the assumption of growth is always there, therefore, or need is always there. Therefore, innovation is always just about finding out how to serve that need. So you get this very kind of entrepreneurial driven style theories. And all of our theories are kind of like that. There's the whole sort of innovator entrepreneur. The whole institutional drag thing is about how do you push through that. So it's still about that kind of heroic sort of figure. All of the research that I do at the minute that's funded is about clearing away the barriers to innovation. So clearly the assumption is that innovation should be happening, growth should be happening, and something's gone wrong and there's barriers to it. We need to clear them away. So it's actually the same push model. But the reality is that growth is slowing down and has been since the 1970s. And then we have, the returns on innovation are getting lower. Growth is sluggish and slow and doesn't really seem to show any signs of improving in the long term, and possibly never will. I mean, one argument is that the Industrial Revolution itself has actually come to an end, or is coming to an end. It's been a long 150, 200-year run, which is now coming to an end. So if that's true, then yeah, we definitely need new theories and new ways to understand the innovation process, and stop thinking about expansion and start thinking about consolidation, start thinking about repairing what we've already got, for example, making it work better, making it more environmentally friendly, for example.
Okay, thanks, Chris, for that. David is here, so David, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. I found which button to push in order to make myself available here. Yeah, a really interesting presentation, partly because it was so simple, and I don't know why we get locked into this idea of the grand space shop model of innovation. I think, as you said, Chris, very well. In fact, our notions of innovation push are driven by economics rather than actually by something improving something. It's, I think we need to have a much stronger idea of how we can improve things. And I really value this work that you've done, because I think we need to go back to a demand model of it, and then maybe we can get innovation that works rather than just innovation hype. How wonderful it'll all be in the future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yes.
Okay. There are three more questions here, but I think we can only take one more. Let's go to Bernard. I'll read it out to you, Chris. He says, wouldn't it be appropriate to say that demand is able to push for innovation in construction, depending on the system of government, population, influence of the private client?
I think demand it can be used as a lever, and previous governments have discovered this kind of by accident. And one of the examples in the paper is prefabricated housing in Norway, and it was actually the government that pulled through this innovation, which is the argument in this paper. And they did so by providing oodles of cheap money to their citizens for the purposes of buying houses. And there was kind of then that creates the impression of a sort of push to innovation, and that innovation becomes about system building, prefabrication. But in fact, this is a demand pull model of innovation, and it is the most powerful lever. It's a kind of Keynesian model of growth, if you like, but focused on innovation. And governments are extremely reticent to use this lever. They always want to go to the idea that we need more firms to be doing more innovating, but innovating for whom? If firms won't adopt innovations because they can see there's no market growth and they can see their business model is already working in this kind of sluggish growth world, why on earth would they innovate? Why would these innovations be interesting to them? Why would more productivity be interesting to them? There's an assumption in this model that productivity is always the objective. Actually, it's not. Survival is the objective. And productivity and innovating brings with it risk. So yes, you can turn it around to look like a sort of push model. But if you think in terms of a pull model, and it's just a kind of mental trick to some extent, then you begin to get different answers to the problem. Answers which to me have begun to make a lot more sense and explain why we've had umpteen reports on innovation construction which have never managed to crack the problem. How much money we spent on those reports.
Okay, thank you for Chris for that. There are other questions from Leon and Barry. Yeah, just to acknowledge them. And I think Leon is also, he agrees with David's point. So maybe I know we'll have enough time during this conference to catch up. Because of time, I will go to the next presenter. The next presentation is about bricklaying robots in the South African construction industry, the Contractors' Perspective. Okay, and it's by Nishani.
Greetings everyone. My name is Siphephelo Caluza. I'm from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and today I'll be presenting to you my research thesis that I prepared together with my partners Skhumbuzo, Dondolo, and Dr. Nishani on the topic bricklaying robots in the South African construction industry, the Contractors' Perspective. To begin with, the construction sector has been one of the slowest industries to adopt robotics and automation within its working processes. But over the years, the demand for efficient construction processes and innovative construction techniques has increased within the construction industry. And this has been largely due to the rising competition in the globalized markets and advanced of the 21st century. Automation and robotics has been identified as the main and most important means of swiftly moving the world of construction towards simplification and computerization of almost all construction tasks and processes. A number of studies have shown that automation of the construction industry will result in the construction work being executed in a safer environment due to the better alternative building methods that could ensure that the work are executed with greater accuracy, therefore improving the quality of the construction works. With all that being said, everyone, I would like you to meet Sam, the bricklaying robot. So Sam was developed in the United States, in New York, by the company called Construction Robots. So Sam as a bricklaying robot is a single-task construction robot, which means that Sam is able to assemble brick walls with minimum input from humans. Sam was developed to decrease the fatalities within the construction industry, to decrease the construction period, and to improve the quality and also improve the production. There were three objectives we wanted to achieve with this research. The first one being to provide a review analysis of the benefits of using the same automated machine, which is also known as SAM. And the second one, we wanted to provide an understanding to the disadvantages of using SAM. And the third one, we wanted to determine the willingness of the South African construction industry to adopt the use of the bricklaying robots such as SAM. So, in our quest to achieve our objective, we conducted a qualitative survey among 20 construction companies based in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. These construction companies are to be registered with the KwaZulu-Natal Master Builders Association. To ensure that the respondent knew about SAM, they were firstly provided with a YouTube link so that they have a good understanding. The participants were given a semi-structured interview, which consisted of demographic, introductory, and the main questions. The interviews were analyzed using NVivo 12. This included coding all the data to accumulate a better understanding. Our participants were mostly male. We had like 65% of our participants which were male, and then we had like 35% of them were female. We also had the pleasure of working with people with different qualifications. We had 40% of people who were qualified as QS, and then we also had 10% of people who were working as the construction managers. We also had 25% of people working as the project managers. We also had 15% of people working as civil engineers, and 10% of our participants were site agents. Our participants were asked to provide their years of experience within the construction industry. So we had we divided those years of experience from 0 to 10, and then we had 11 to 20, and then we had 21 to 30. So we had like 60% of the people who were within the range of 0 to 10, and then we had like 25% of people who were within the range of 25, who were within the range of 11 and 20, and then we had 15% who were within the range of 21 and 30. So within the interviews, we had like 3 clear themes which emerged from the analysis of the findings. So these 3 themes were the benefits of using SAM, the disadvantages of using SAM, and the willingness to adopt the use of SAM. So under the theme of the benefits of using SAM, the participants believed that the adoption of SAM within their construction companies would improve the quality, will fasten the construction time, will increase the productivity, it will also reduce the labor cost, and will create new skills as people have to be taught how to use SAM. Under the theme of the disadvantages of using SAM, the participants believed that the adoption of SAM will increase the unemployment and job loss. They believe that there will be fewer job opportunities for informal labor within the construction industry. Adding to that, some people will be laid off, hence contributing to an increase in unemployment within the country. They also believed that there will be increased in the cost, as the participants felt that the introduction of bricklaying robots will cost them a lot of money and time to train their employees and to operate and work with SAM. And they also believed that the introduction of SAM will also incur more cost, as they have to pay more wages to people who are operating the machines. The participants also believed that there will be riots, as the public will not be too pleased with the introduction of SAM in South Africa. Under the theme of the willingness to adopt SAM, we had like 18 people who believed that SAM would be a great investment, and 2 believed that SAM will come with an unaccounted for cost. The 18 participants believe that looking at the potential benefits, the adoption of SAM will be a great investment, and the other 2 believe that SAM will be more costly and will be more unpredictable rather than the manual labor. They were then asked about if they would choose the SAM or the manual labor. We had 60% of them who said that they will choose SAM over manual labor, and the other 40% were satisfied with the manual labor. So in our conclusion, the research found that the participants believed that the benefits of the adoption of SAM outweighs the disadvantages. So given the opportunity, they would adopt SAM. The participants believe that the South African industry is not ready to implement the innovation of this kind yet, as the cost of acquiring the same automated machine, the lacking of the necessary skills to operate the robots, the uncertainty of the running costs, which include the regular maintenance cost and the salary of the operator, are among the barriers of the construction companies to consider adopting SAM. This has been a great research. I would like to thank all the participants and also our supervisor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Is Nishana, are you here? Nishana, I've upgraded you to the presenter. Are you here to take the questions? Okay, so she's here.
Hi, I see my co-author is here as well. Would it be possible to promote him to presenter, people? The gentleman who presented?
Yes, is he here? Oh, okay, yeah. Let me upgrade him.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we have one question and I think one comment. David also made, maybe Sam was created to make money for the robot industry. I guess it is only a sales team that it will create health and safety for. It is not designed for this anyway. But there's question from Kwando. Could you elaborate on situating the study in the relevant wider literature, either on innovation stroke robotics and automation? In other words, could you elaborate on the implications of the findings of the study for existing knowledge about the take-up and use of construction robots? Are you still there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you so much for the question. I think we were looking to do a study to look at automation in construction, and specifically in the South African construction industry, because generally we are a bit behind compared to the rest of the world. So we're looking to see the impressions in terms of automation. And just for the second part of the question, so basically we found that there was a lot of interest and people were very keen and they were very excited about it, but they actually just didn't believe that the uptake would be high. So if and when it would be introduced, it would take some convincing in terms of the use of it, because they felt that in terms of our situation in this country, manual labor is going to be more prevalent in terms of usage. So I hope I answered that question.
Okay. No. There's also, I guess this is a comment from Chris. I guess the question here is, who is the customer? I guess here it is the local authority. They are demanding that the city start to climb this smart city leaderboard, or maybe they think they can generate data or reduce crime, improve the efficiency. And I think he went on to say, is the cost benefit of the robot clear to the investors? So first of all, I think the question is, who is the customer here, from what he's saying? And okay, there's somebody raising up there, but do you want to answer, Nisha?
Yes, so in this particular instance, we didn't interview any people from the actual government side. So these were actual private sector contractors that we had interviewed. So they weren't. We didn't. The panel didn't include anybody from government.
Okay. Okay, Chris, I've upgraded you to the presenter. You wanted to ask the question. Okay. Are you there, Chris? I've upgraded you to the presenter. Okay, if Chris is not there, but I have a question on this, especially on the research method and data you collected. It seems like the outcome of this seems to be the usual stuff that we've always known about robots, the benefits you were talking about. Is there anything very specific that is new from the original knowledge we used to know about robots? Because we've always known that, yeah, they will improve the way we work in terms of some of the benefits you're providing. What is exactly new here that we don't know about? And okay, probably to re-echo some of the things people are saying, is this just for the SAM to make money for the companies that develop them? In terms of research, what is really new here?
Okay, so like given this COVID situation, this robot SAM would have been beneficial in the construction industry, with all the lockdowns and the restrictions in terms of labor, etc. But I think what was different in terms of our particular finding was that, and I don't think it's only specifically with this particular with Sam, with this particular robot. I think it's found that South Africa is going to be very slow in the uptake of automation and robotics. And that is because we are pushing for labor-only construction. So the world is going to be far ahead of us in terms of this, because we are so labor-intensive here. And I think that's where the difference comes in. So yes, there's wonderful advantages to be had. We are all aware of the disadvantages. But I think we've got to take in the economy and the situation you're in, and what's going to be the uptake of that. So I think it would have had wonderful advantages, especially given the current COVID situation, etc. But we are going to be a little bit headstrong, I think, when it comes to the uptake, and going to continue with labor construction. So I think that's where the difference is coming from.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Chris is here. Chris, over to you.
Yeah, sorry, I think we got blocked before, but yeah. So the question about, my comment about the public sector was actually in response to Leon, the discussion about smart cities previously. I think the thread wasn't working quite properly. So yeah, my issue about the cost-benefit analysis, in a way you've sort of answered the question in that, the cost-benefit analysis, if you included wages, would tell you that this technology is not going to fly in South Africa, right? So, and I think that's okay. I mean, there's an issue here about, we worry about not adopting technologies and not being up to date and falling behind. But there's an issue here of appropriateness as well, appropriate technology. And maybe right here, right now, this technology is just not appropriate, and that's fine. And it is better that people have jobs than the industry somehow modernizes. These two things do need to be weighed up. There's plenty of technologies that have, diffused through industries only to be abandoned. I've studied technology, diagnostics used by gas boiler engineers. I studied that 10 years ago. We went back to have a look to see what was going on. They'd abandoned it. They'd stopped using it. So quite often the technologies you adopt, are actually useless anyway. Maybe robots will be adopted in bricklaying and then abandoned again. So don't worry about it, would be my advice.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, Kwado also, I think there's a question, but a comment. It is understandable that there would be interest around the adaptation of SAM. That was the comment. It went on to say the main ask is, how can the insights from the study inform existing understanding about the adaptation and use of construction robots?
So I think, Chris summed it up as well by saying that, we found that even though we want to and might want to use it, it's not appropriate for us right now. So, I think the context and the situation you're in where you want to use it plays a very big role.
Okay. So, but can I just ask further? So is it widely used now? Is SAM something that is widely used, or as you're saying, is more like in the development stage, or is it widely used in South Africa, as you're saying?
No, not at all. No.
Okay. Okay. And we still have time for one more question. Any other question? Okay. If there's no other question, thank you so much, Nishani and your co-presenters. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. So we'll now go to the next question. To the next presentation on attitude towards using woods in the Danish building sector. This is by Aysar, am I correct? Yeah. And also yes, the co-author is also here. Hans is also here.
Can you hear me, please, everyone?
Yes, but I will turn off everybody's mic when the presentation starts. Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aysar Selman from University College North in Denmark, and I would like to present to you our research about investigating the attitudes towards using wood in the Danish building sector. Today we are facing serious environmental challenges, and in order to reduce the environmental impact of buildings, sustainable building materials will assist in this regard. Wood is known as a sustainable material. It's environmentally friendly and a renewable resource that provides neither waste nor pollution. However, wood is not used broadly in the Danish construction sector compared to neighboring countries, as several barriers exist when using wood. This can be related to design traditions, regulations, lack of experiences, and solutions. There's a boom in multi-story wood construction in Europe, but not yet in Denmark. In Denmark and Europe, a growing interest in wooden construction as a sustainable building solution calls for strengthening the positive image of wood. According to the Danish statistics, 8% of the buildings are constructed from wood. If this is increased to 10%, then we can save 2 million tons of CO2 from 2020 to 2030. This corresponds to an increase in the net climate impact of 22,000 tons of CO2 per year, which corresponds to building 631 more wooden buildings with a high proportion of wood instead of using conventional materials. This study investigates actors' attitudes towards using wood in Danish construction. It seeks to explore the current national status and pointing out factors that impact actors' decisions when using wood. It also aims to increase the proportion of wood in construction by highlighting wood benefits and tackling the perceived challenges. A literature review was also conducted to investigate how wood contributes to sustainability and also finding the different attitudes of actors towards using wood in buildings and investigating the experiences and barriers when using wood. A mixed method approach was applied, including a quantitative and qualitative online survey questionnaire. The nationwide survey was distributed to 640 organizations with more than 10 employers, targeting engineers, architects, municipalities, and professional building owners, with a response rate of 24%. The questionnaire included questions concerning actors' perceived benefits, experiences, attitudes, and challenges when using wood in construction. The results are divided into 5 areas, according to the challenges of wood as a load-bearing structure, challenges of wood when using it as an exterior cladding, and the challenges of wood when using it as an interior cladding, the benefits of using wood, and the experiences. This figure illustrates challenges when using wood as a load-bearing structure, according to 7 challenges. First, according to fire. Ensuring fire safety is a design prerequisite in wood construction. Results confirm that most respondents agree on the existence of fire challenges, and only a limited group of actors are experienced in solving this. When analyzing the results according to profession, consultant engineers seem to be the most experienced actors. This reflects a knowledge gap among designers in fire protection. But if wood is designed and engineered correctly, then it can be perfectly fire safe. Thus, it's essential to integrate the engineering and architectural expertise. According to moisture, similarly, results indicate moisture problems in wooden load-bearing structures and lack of technologies and solutions to prevent it. According to sound, some actors are still facing difficulties in solving acoustic challenges, but it's less challenging, indicating that the building sector is developing in finding soundproofing solutions. According to robustness, wood is perceived as a solid and robust material. According to the construction process, wood will not prolong the building process. Other challenges collected from respondents' comments relieve that the stiffness of wood is less compared to steel and concrete, creating challenges in deformations and also wood import. Maintenance is a problematic and risky aspect compared to traditional materials, as the influence of moisture and temperature in both construction and operation phases is a challenging aspect. It's also relieved that the long-lasting properties of wood as load-building elements are not known. Generally, authorities and advisors are not familiar with wood, providing some resistance to use it. Challenges with wood as an exterior cladding. The results relieve that 58% of responses confirm the presence of challenges, including fire challenges, sensitivity to climate conditions, which make the maintenance cost higher, and also untreated wood changes appearance and becomes less consistent over time. Architecture and building traditions is also a challenging aspect. Here, limited possibilities for facade expressions that suit big cities' architecture. Lack of craftsman's experience is also a challenging issue. Choosing the right type of cladding and the approved type is also an essential factor. Challenges with wood used as interior cladding. Fire safety and sensitivity to moisture remain the most significant challenges, as confirmed by 50% of respondents. The Danish building regulations hinder the use of wood for interior cladding in high-rise buildings, as wood surfaces must comply with the fire requirements. Also, the appearance of wood surfaces may change if untreated correctly. And when using raw cross-laminated timber, it shrinks by drying, leaving cracks that will be seen if not coated or treated. Also, the patina varies depending on how much light it receives. Generally, 83% confirm significant benefits linked to wood in construction, indicating their positive attitudes and also tendency to use more wood. 89% confirmed the environmental benefits and 92% agreed that wood improves the indoor climate and aesthetic, while 60% acknowledged economic benefits and 68% agreed that wood benefits the construction process with less construction time, and 85% agreed that it's easy to construct with. Respondents were asked whether they have worked with projects where wood construction was used instead of traditional construction, and 63% of them answered yes, 21% no, and 16% was not relevant for them. They were also asked how often they implemented wood in projects the last 5 years with wood in the load-bearing and cladding system. 24% answered rarely, and 61% sometimes, and 15% most often. Wood is mostly used in single-family houses and residential buildings, up to 3 stories, but less in commercial buildings. High-rise wood construction is not expanded yet in Denmark, indicating fewer experiences and difficulties to comply with building regulations' fire requirements. Generally, actors used wood mostly for the load-bearing system and exterior cladding, while less used as interior cladding and decoration purposes. Results relieve that architects used wood mostly for interior and exterior claddings and less for the bearing structure. In contrast, engineers use wood for the load-bearing system more than claddings. The biggest responsibility to promote using wood is linked to building owners and their advisors. The green transition calls for strengthening the positive image of wood construction. Wood must be a natural choice of building materials. The Danish governmental strategy on climate change identifies a substantial increase of wood in buildings as a top priority. Challenges in using wood request for urgent and practical solutions for continued growth of wood in construction. Challenging issues remain on moisture risk and fire safety, especially for high-rise buildings, calling for regulatory adjustment. An experience gap between designers is detected, hindering the wood progression. However, most respondents confirmed the environmental and social benefits. The building industry and the educational institutes have a great responsibility and need for further education in wood construction. The industry generally has a poor adoption of innovation. New and common practices are realized when calling for increased use of wood in buildings. Finally, wood is good if well understood. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward for your questions.
Okay, yes, thank you so much for that interesting presentation. I'll now open this to the floor. If anybody has any question.
Yes, I'm sorry I couldn't open the camera. I don't know what happened suddenly. But no, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you very well.
Okay,
yeah.
Great, yes.
Any question from the floor? Yes, there's one. Hold on. Chris again, okay. Chris.
If I may elaborate a little while we wait for a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
In the Danish government is working on legislation about sustainability in the construction sector. I don't know if it was mentioned in the presentation, but it's something that most are not quite ready for yet about to adapt to the new legislation. It's coming in 1.5 year, 2 years. I think it's the plan. So it's also relevant to be ready for new techniques when this legislation comes.
Okay. Okay, Chris, you raised up your hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you very well.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I thought, yeah, last response was interesting because industry is never ready for regulation, is it? It's always we need more time. We need more time. I was just wondering, did you discuss at all with your kind of professionals, as your engineers, etc., architects? Did they talk about their clients at all and what their clients thought about wooden buildings?
Yes, well, the clients, they are very motivated towards using more wood, and they have a very positive mindset, and they have the biggest responsibility, of course, but still not all clients are asking it. It's improving, it's getting better, but still, when we asked, about 52% they follow the sustainable development, but 34% they are not ready, and they are not including sustainable development in their projects. So there is an improvement, but we still need a better understanding of the benefits of sustainability and using wooden construction, especially.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
So your feeling is that there is demand for these buildings, but
yes,
the industry is
yes.
not quite ready to deliver on that demand. Is that?
Yeah, and that could be because of the knowledge and the experiences that we still need more experiences in this, and also facing the challenges. If we find solutions, then it will be easier, and also the economical part. If it's known the economical benefits, then also clients will use more wood in their buildings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chika?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a question from David. Can I read it out?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Okay, it says, what about the supply of timber? If it is to be imported, does that not significantly reduce its benefits? Also, to make it structural, it needs to be slow grown. This is not the model of forestry that is being promoted.
That's true. We have the supply in Denmark is usually for usual traditional timber construction is Swedish timber, and if we have to construct in CLT, we have to get it from Germany or Switzerland, I think. So of course it's in the big calculation. We also have to look at the transport, of course.
Okay. And there was a question that was tied into this one. I don't know if it came out already. Do you have any thoughts on the carbon footprint debate on the increase in the use of timber as sustainable construction material in your own country?
Yes, we do have research work here in the States Building Institute. We have
reports about investigating the CO2 impact from many cases, study cases they have made, and documented the environmental impact from these cases and the environmental benefits also. So yes, we do have a great focus on this today, and documenting more and more the environmental impact when using wood.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
There are no more questions in the chat. Is there any?
Well, okay. Any more questions from the audience? Any? Okay. Thank you so much. Let's thank our presenters first, and also the audience. But I think just to summarize, we've had 3 very interesting presentations here. The first one was from Chris, which he argued that both lack of innovation and the lack of institutions prepared to support innovation can be linked to low level of demand for innovation associated with slack economic growth, and also an absence of other demand drivers. The second presenter on bricklaying robot introduced the robot called Sam, and he argued that this study reveals that the construction industry professionals in South Africa are willing to adopt a semi-automated mason into their working structure, and he believes that that most South African, although that she's saying that most South African constructions are not ready to implement this technology yet. And then finally, Aysar and Hans discussed the attitude towards using wood.
Hello everybody, my name is Aysar Selman from University College London, Denmark.
Oh, I'm sorry for this.
Okay, that's all right. So their study investigated the Danish construction sector in terms of the current status and attitude towards the use of wood in buildings, looking at both the structural, both interior and also for cladding purposes. And this, it went on to identify the perceived barriers and benefits of doing this. Okay, so that's the 3 interesting presentations. Thank you so much.